Maya Rodriguez pulled her jacket tighter as the cold wind whipped across the airport tarmac. It was nearly midnight, and the huge hangars stretched out like sleeping giants in the darkness. Her flashlight beam cut through the shadows as she walked beside her father, their cleaning cartwheels squeaking on the concrete. "Mia, you're quiet tonight," Carlos said, glancing at his 19-year-old daughter. His weathered hands gripped the cart handle as they approached Hangar 7. "Something on your mind?" Maya shrugged, but her eyes were already scanning the aircraft parked inside. "Just thinking about stuff, Papa. College applications, you know." Carlos nodded, though worry lines creased his forehead. They both knew the community college brochures sitting on their kitchen table might as well be lottery tickets. Even with financial aid, the costs seemed impossible on a custodian's salary. As they entered the hangar, Maya's heart did its usual little skip. 3 beautiful aircraft sat under the bright fluorescent lights, 2 small private jets and a sleek helicopter. Even after 2 years of cleaning these hangars, she never got tired of seeing them up close. While her father began mopping the floor, Maya found herself drawn to the nearest jet. She pretended to dust the area around it. But really she was studying the engine cowling, the wing design, the way everything fit together so perfectly. Her fingers traced the air near the metal, careful not to actually touch anything. She had learned every curve and line of these machines by heart. "Maya, come help me with these trash bins," Carlos called. She hurried over, but her mind stayed on the aircraft. During their lunch break, while her father dozed in the break room, Maya would sneak back to watch the mechanics who sometimes worked late shifts. She had learned to stay hidden behind equipment crates, absorbing every word they said, every tool they used, every problem they solved. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Rosa. "Movie night tomorrow? New rom-com just dropped on Netflix." Maya typed back, "Can't working. Save it for me, though." Rosa replied with sad face emojis. Maya stared at the screen for a moment. All her friends from high school were at regular colleges now, living normal college lives. She tried not to feel bitter about it, but some nights it was hard. "You know," Carlos said, emptying a wastebasket. "Mr. Johnson from the day shift mentioned they might have openings in the administration building. Better pay, regular hours. You could work there and still take classes." Maya nodded absently, but the thought of sitting in an office all day made her chest feel tight. "Maybe, Papa." What she really wanted was to tell him about the books hidden under her bed. Advanced aircraft maintenance manuals she had bought from a used bookstore downtown, or about the online aviation forums where she spent hours reading technical discussions, sometimes even offering solutions to problems that stumped licensed mechanics. But how could she explain that his daughter, who was supposed to be practical and realistic, dreamed of working on the very machines they cleaned around every night? They worked in comfortable silence for the next hour. Maya found herself humming as she wiped down surfaces, imagining what it would be like to actually open up one of these engines, to understand every component, to fix something that seemed unfixable. Around 2 a.m., they finished Hangar 7 and moved toward the exit. That's when Maya noticed something was wrong. "Papa, wait," she whispered, grabbing his arm. There, about 50 yards away on the tarmac, sat a private jet that definitely hadn't been there when they arrived. It was sleek and expensive looking, but something was off. Maya squinted through the darkness and saw it. Wisps of smoke or steam rising from the engine area. "Someone's plane is in trouble," she said. Carlos frowned, pulling out his radio. "I should call security, let them know there's an aircraft with possible mechanical issues." But Maya was already walking toward the jet, her cleaning supplies forgotten. Something about the way the smoke was rising told her this wasn't just a routine cool-down. This was a problem. "Mia, where are you going?" Carlos called, hurrying after her. As they got closer, Maya could see more details. The jet was definitely high-end, probably worth more than their entire neighborhood combined. The smoke was coming from the left engine cowling, and even in the dim light, she could see scorch marks around the exhaust area. "This is a fuel system issue," she murmured, almost to herself. "How could you possibly know that?" Carlos asked, but his voice held a note of pride. His daughter had always been too smart for her own good. Maya was about to answer when they heard voices. A woman was standing near the jet's passenger door, speaking rapidly into a cell phone. Even from a distance, they could tell she was frustrated. "No, I understand you're the nearest certified repair facility, but 3 hours is not acceptable," the woman was saying. "I have a meeting in Chicago at 7 a.m. that cannot be postponed." Maya watched the woman pace back and forth. She was elegantly dressed despite the late hour, and everything about her suggested wealth and authority. But right now she just looked like someone whose plans had fallen apart. "Maya," Carlos said quietly, "we should go back inside. This isn't our business," but Maya couldn't stop staring at the engine cowling. The pattern of the smoke, the location of the scorch marks, the way the metal around the exhaust looked slightly warped. It all pointed to one specific problem. She had read about this exact issue in one of her manuals just last week. "It's a fuel injector failure," she whispered. "What?" "The fuel injector. That's what's wrong. When they fail, they cause incomplete combustion, which creates that specific smoke pattern and those scorch marks." Carlos stared at his daughter. "How do you know all this?" Maya felt her cheeks burn. This was not how she had planned to reveal her secret interest. I read about planes sometimes. In my spare time." The woman's voice was getting more agitated on the phone. "What do you mean your earliest appointment is Thursday? This is Tuesday morning." Maya looked at her father, then at the expensive jet, then at the frustrated woman. Everything in her practical mind said to walk away. They were custodians. This was way above their pay grade. The woman probably had insurance and money and people who could solve her problems. But Maya couldn't shake the image of that failed fuel injector, sitting there in the engine. Probably a simple fix if you knew what you were doing and had the right tools. And despite everything logical telling her to stay away, she found herself taking a step toward the jet. "Maya, no," Carlos said, reading her expression. But it was too late. Her feet were already carrying her forward, toward the woman, toward the broken jet, toward a moment that would change everything. Maya's heart pounded as she walked across the tarmac toward the stranded jet. Behind her, she could hear her father's worried footsteps following. The woman was still on her phone, pacing in tight circles near the aircraft's stairs. "Excuse me," Maya called out, her voice smaller than she intended. The woman turned and Maya got her first clear look at her. She was probably in her 50s, with perfectly styled silver hair and clothes that probably cost more than Maya's family made in a month. Her expression shifted from irritation to confusion as she took in Maya's uniform and cleaning cart in the distance. "Yes?" the woman said, covering her phone with one hand. Maya's mouth went dry. What was she doing? This woman was clearly wealthy and important, and here Maya was, a teenager in a janitor's uniform, about to offer advice about a multi-million-dollar aircraft. I couldn't help but notice your plane is having some trouble," Maya managed. The woman's eyebrows rose. "And you are?" "Maya Rodriguez. I work here with my father. We're on the night cleaning crew." Maya gestured toward Carlos, who gave a small, uncertain wave. "I think I might know what's wrong with your engine." For a moment, the woman just stared at her. Then she let out a short laugh, but not a mean one. More like the laugh of someone who had reached the end of their rope. "Listen, Maya, I appreciate the concern, but this is a very expensive piece of machinery. I've got certified technicians on the way." "In 3 hours," Maya said quietly. "I heard you on the phone." The woman's expression softened slightly. "Yes, well, these things can't be rushed. Safety is the most important thing." Maya nodded, then took a deep breath. "What if I told you it's probably just a failed fuel injector? The smoke pattern and scorch marks around your left engine exhaust are classic signs. It's not dangerous to diagnose, and if I'm right, it's actually a pretty straightforward fix." The woman lowered her phone completely now, staring at Maya with new interest. "How could you possibly know that?" Maya felt her cheeks burning, but she pressed on. "I study aircraft in my spare time. I know it sounds crazy, but I've been learning about jet engines for years. I can tell you exactly what type of engine that is just by looking at it." "Really?" There was skepticism in the woman's voice, but also curiosity. Maya pointed at the engine cowling. "That's a Pratt & Whitney Canada PW600 series engine. Probably a PW617FE based on this aircraft model. They're known for fuel injector issues around the 2,000-hour mark. When they fail, they cause incomplete fuel burn, which creates that specific smoke pattern you saw during startup or shutdown." The woman's mouth opened slightly. She introduced herself as Catherine Patterson, though she said to call her Ms. Patterson. "How old are you?" 19. "And you learned all this from—" "Studying." Maya nodded, feeling embarrassed. "I know it's weird. Most people my age are into other stuff. But I just love how aircraft work. All the systems working together. The precision of everything. I watch the mechanics here sometimes during my breaks, and I read manuals and forums online. Carlos stepped forward, putting a protective hand on Maya's shoulder. My daughter has always been smart with mechanical things. When she was little, she took apart every appliance in our house just to see how they worked. Ms. Patterson looked between them, clearly trying to process what she was hearing. Even if you're right about the diagnosis, fixing a fuel injector requires specialized tools and certification. This isn't like fixing a car. I know, Maya said quickly. I'm not saying I should do the work. I just thought maybe if I could confirm what the problem is, it might help you make better decisions about what to do next. Ms. Patterson checked her watch, and Maya could see the frustration returning to her face. I have the most important meeting of my career in less than 5 hours, in a completely different city. If I miss it, she trailed off, shaking her head. What kind of meeting? Maya asked, then immediately felt stupid for being nosy, but Ms. Patterson didn't seem to mind. A business deal I've been working on for 2 years. If I'm not there to sign the contracts personally, we lose everything. Maya looked at the jet, then back at Ms. Patterson. The maintenance crew your insurance company is sending. They'll want to run full diagnostics before they even touch anything. That could take another hour on top of the 3 hours to get here, and if they find additional problems, you're saying I might not make my meeting at all? Ms. Patterson finished. I'm saying it's possible. Ms. Patterson was quiet for a long moment, studying Maya's face. You really think you know what's wrong? I'm pretty confident, but I'd need to get a closer look to be sure. And if you're right, how long would it take to fix? Maya hesitated. If it's just the fuel injector, I think it is, and if we had the right parts and tools. Maybe 2 hours for someone who knew what they were doing. Someone certified, you mean? Maya nodded, though something in her expression must have given her away. You think you could do it yourself, Ms. Patterson said. It wasn't a question. I've never actually worked on a real aircraft engine, Maya admitted, but I understand the principles. I've studied the repair procedures. I know it sounds crazy, but I think I could do it. Carlos stepped forward again. Mija, this is very dangerous talk. You could get in serious trouble. We could both lose our jobs. Your father's right, Ms. Patterson said. What you're suggesting is illegal. You'd need proper certification to work on an aircraft. Maya nodded miserably. I know, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. It's just seeing a problem I know I could solve and watching someone miss something important because of it. Ms. Patterson was quiet again, looking back and forth between the jet and Maya. Show me, she said suddenly. What? Show me the problem. Explain to me exactly what you think is wrong and how you would fix it. Don't touch anything, just talk me through it. Maya's eyes lit up. Really? Really? But just to be clear, I'm not agreeing to let you work on my plane. I'm just curious about what a 19-year-old janitor thinks she knows about aircraft engines. Maya practically bounced on her toes as she led Ms. Patterson toward the engine. Carlos followed behind, muttering prayers in Spanish under his breath. As they got closer to the engine cowling, Maya pointed out the specific signs she had noticed earlier. Her voice grew more confident as she explained the fuel system, the combustion process, and exactly how a failed injector would create the pattern of damage they could see. Ms. Patterson listened intently, occasionally asking technical questions that Maya answered without hesitation. The more Maya talked, the more amazed Ms. Patterson looked. Where did you say you learned all this? Ms. Patterson asked. Books mostly. Online forums. Watching the mechanics here. I know I sound like some kind of aviation nerd. No, Ms. Patterson said slowly. You sound like someone who should be in engineering school. Maya's smile faded. Can't afford it. Community college is about all we can manage, and even that's a stretch. Ms. Patterson nodded thoughtfully but didn't say anything else about it. Instead, she checked her watch again and sighed. Maya, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Ms. Patterson looked directly into Maya's eyes, her expression serious. If you were absolutely certain you could fix this problem safely, and if I was willing to take full responsibility for any consequences, would you be willing to try? Maya felt like her heart stopped beating for a moment. You're asking me to actually work on your jet? I'm asking if you would, hypothetically. Carlos stepped between them. Senora, with all respect, this is not possible. My daughter is not certified. If something goes wrong, if someone gets hurt, we could face serious legal problems. I understand your concerns, Ms. Patterson said calmly, but I'm not asking you to decide for her. I'm asking Maya what she thinks. Maya looked at her father's worried face, then at the expensive aircraft, then back at Ms. Patterson. I think I could do it, but Papa's right about the risks. If I made a mistake, what if I told you this meeting could affect thousands of jobs? That people are counting on me being there? Ms. Patterson's voice was quiet but intense. Would that change anything? Maya felt the weight of that responsibility settling on her shoulders. What kind of business deal? The kind that keeps companies alive and families fed, Ms. Patterson said simply. I can't say more than that, but I can tell you it's important. Maya walked closer to the engine, studying the access panels and thinking through every step of the repair process she had memorized from her manuals. I would need tools, specific tools that I don't have. There's a maintenance facility 2 hangars over, Ms. Patterson said. They keep emergency repair kits for situations like this. You want me to break into another hangar? Maya's eyes widened. I want you to think creatively about solutions, Ms. Patterson said with a small smile. Besides, I happen to know the facility manager. One phone call from me and those tools become available. Carlos shook his head. This is getting too complicated. Too risky. But Maya was already thinking through the process. I'd need about 6 specific tools. A fuel line disconnect kit, a torque wrench set, some basic hand tools, and... She paused, realizing she was actually considering this insane idea. And, Ms. Patterson prompted, and a replacement fuel injector. But those cost thousands of dollars and have to be ordered from specific suppliers. Ms. Patterson pulled out her phone and made a quick call. Maya could only hear one side of the conversation, but it was clear Ms. Patterson had connections everywhere. After a few minutes, she hung up. There's a parts supplier in the city who keeps emergency stock. They can have a fuel injector here within 90 minutes. Maya stared at her. Who are you? Someone who gets things done when they need to be done, Ms. Patterson replied. The question is, are you someone who can do the same? Maya looked at her father, seeing the fear and pride warring in his expression. She knew he was scared for her, but she also knew he had raised her to help people when she could. If I do this, Maya said slowly, and if something goes wrong, you have to promise me my father won't get in trouble. This was my choice, not his. Ms. Patterson nodded. You have my word. Carlos sighed deeply. Mija, are you sure about this? Maya wasn't sure about anything, but she nodded anyway. I think so, Papa. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of activity. Ms. Patterson made more phone calls, and soon a security guard arrived with a set of maintenance tools. The parts supplier sent a courier with the fuel injector, along with all the gaskets and seals needed for the repair. Maya spread the tools out on a clean tarp, her hands trembling slightly as she picked up each one. She had seen these tools used before, had read about them countless times, but had never actually held them. You can still change your mind, Ms. Patterson said quietly. Maya shook her head. No, I want to do this. She started by carefully removing the engine cowling, following the exact procedure she had memorized. Each bolt came out in the precise order specified in the manual. Carlos held a flashlight for her, while Ms. Patterson watched every move with intense concentration. First rule of aircraft maintenance, Maya murmured as she worked. Never force anything. If it doesn't come apart easily, you're doing something wrong. The cowling came off perfectly, revealing the complex machinery inside. Maya had seen pictures of jet engines in her books, but seeing one up close, being able to reach inside and touch the actual components, was almost overwhelming. The fuel injector is right here, she said, pointing to a cylindrical component about the size of a small flashlight. See how it's connected to the fuel line here and the electrical connection there? Ms. Patterson leaned in closer. How do you know which one needs to be replaced? Maya pointed to small scorch marks around one of the injectors. This one's been running too hot. That's what caused all the smoke and the incomplete combustion. She began the delicate process of disconnecting the fuel lines. Her hands were steadier now, muscle memory taking over even though she had never done this exact procedure before. Every movement was deliberate and careful. The fuel system is pressurized, she explained as she worked. So I have to relieve that pressure first, then disconnect these lines in the right order or fuel could spray everywhere. Carlos watched nervously as Maya worked with components that cost more than their car. How do you remember all these steps? I've read this procedure so many times I could do it in my sleep, Maya said, carefully removing the old fuel injector. It came out with a soft click and she held it up to the light. See this? The spray pattern holes are all clogged with carbon deposits. That's what was causing the problem. She showed them the new injector, gleaming and perfect. This should fix everything. Installing the new part took even more concentration. Maya had to make sure the electrical connections were perfect, that the fuel lines were properly sealed, and that everything was torqued to exactly the right specifications. Too loose and it will leak, she explained as she worked. Too tight and you can strip the threads or crack the housing. Ms. Patterson checked her watch. How much longer? Almost done. Just need to reconnect these last two lines and put the cowling back on. As Maya worked on the final connections, she found herself thinking about all the late nights she had spent reading about aircraft, all the times her friends had teased her for being obsessed with planes, all the moments she had wondered if her dreams were too big for someone like her. There, she said finally, stepping back from the engine. That should do it. The cowling went back on just as smoothly as it had come off. Maya torqued every bolt to specification, double-checked every connection, and ran through her mental checklist 3 times. Now what? Ms. Patterson asked. Now we test it, Maya said, wiping her hands on a rag. But we should probably step back a bit, just in case. Ms. Patterson climbed into the cockpit and started the engines. Maya held her breath as the turbines spun up, waiting for the telltale signs of success or failure. The engines roared to life smoothly with no smoke, no unusual sounds, and no warning lights on the cockpit display. Maya felt tears of relief and joy streaming down her face as Ms. Patterson emerged from the cockpit with a huge smile. Maya barely slept that morning. Every time she closed her eyes, she could see the jet's engines roaring to life, could hear Ms. Patterson's grateful words echoing in her mind. After the successful repair, the elegant woman had thanked Maya and her father repeatedly, pressed a generous tip into Carlos's hands despite his protests, and promised she would never forget what they had done for her. You saved my business deal, and possibly my career, Miss Patterson had said, shaking Maya's grease-stained hand. I won't forget this kindness. Then she had climbed into her repaired jet and disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness, leaving Maya to wonder if the whole incredible night had been some kind of dream. When Maya's alarm went off at 3 p.m., she felt groggy and disoriented. She and her father were scheduled to work the day shift for the rest of the week, covering for a colleague who was sick. As she got dressed, Maya caught herself smiling at her reflection. For the first time in her life, she had actually used her aircraft knowledge to solve a real problem. It felt amazing. You're glowing, mija, Carlos said when she came into the kitchen. He was already in his work clothes, nursing a cup of coffee. How do you feel? Like I could fix a whole fleet of planes, Maya said, grabbing a piece of toast. Papa, do you think Miss Patterson will really remember us? Carlos smiled. Rich people, they live in a different world than us. But she seemed genuine. Maybe she will send us a Christmas card or something. Maya nodded, though part of her hoped for more than just a Christmas card. Maybe Ms. Patterson knew people in the aviation industry. Maybe she could put in a good word for Maya somewhere, help her get a foot in the door. They arrived at the airport around 4 p.m., and immediately Maya noticed something was different. There were more security guards than usual, and several men in expensive suits were walking around with clipboards and serious expressions. Wonder what's going on, Carlos muttered as they checked in with their supervisor. Their supervisor? Mr. Chen looked unusually stressed. Oh good, you're here. We need all hands on deck today. Apparently we're getting some kind of VIP inspection. Corporate people, big shots. Everyone wants everything perfect. Inspection of what? Maya asked. The whole airport. Facilities, cleanliness, security protocols. Someone important is coming and management is running around like their hair is on fire. Maya and Carlos exchanged glances. In their 2 years working at the airport, they had never seen this level of activity. As they began their cleaning rounds, Maya couldn't help but notice the increased security presence. Black SUVs were parked near the main terminal, and she spotted several people who looked like bodyguards stationed at various entrances. This isn't just any inspection, she whispered to her father as they cleaned the main corridor. This is something big. Around 6 p.m., while Maya was cleaning windows near the terminal's main entrance, she heard a commotion outside. A convoy of luxury vehicles was pulling up to the curb, led by a sleek black limousine. Airport executives were lined up like they were greeting royalty. Maya pressed her face to the glass, trying to get a better look. The limousine door opened and a familiar figure stepped out. Maya's breath caught in her throat. It was Ms. Patterson, but something was completely different about her. Gone was the casual elegance of last night. Today she was dressed in a sharp business suit, surrounded by assistants and security personnel. Airport executives were practically bowing as they greeted her. "Papa," Maya whispered, grabbing Carlos's arm. "Papa, come look at this." Carlos joined her at the window and his eyes widened. "Is that the woman from last night?" Maya finished. "But look how everyone is treating her." They watched as Ms. Patterson was escorted into the terminal by what looked like half the airport's management team. Maya could see Mr. Chen among the group, looking more nervous than she had ever seen him. "We need to get back to work," Carlos said, but his voice was uncertain. "Whatever this is, it's not our business." But Maya couldn't concentrate on cleaning. Her mind was racing with questions. Who was Ms. Patterson really? Why was she getting this kind of treatment? And what did it mean that Maya had spent the night fixing her jet? About an hour later, their supervisor found them. "Rodriguez family, I need you both to come with me." Maya's stomach dropped. "Are we in trouble?" "I don't know," Mr. Chen said honestly. "But the VIP wants to speak with you personally." They followed him through corridors Maya had never seen before, past offices and conference rooms that were clearly for executives only. Finally, they stopped outside a large conference room with glass walls. "Wait here," Mr. Chen said, then knocked on the door and disappeared inside. Through the glass, Maya could see Ms. Patterson sitting at the head of a long table, surrounded by men and women in expensive suits. She was clearly running the meeting, pointing at documents and speaking with the kind of authority that made everyone else lean forward to listen. "Maya," Carlos whispered, "I think we might be in serious trouble." Before Maya could respond, the conference room door opened. Mr. Chen emerged, followed by Ms. Patterson herself. But now Maya could see the difference in how everyone treated her. The way they hung on her words. The way they stepped aside when she moved. "Maya, Carlos," Ms. Patterson said, her voice warm but somehow more commanding than it had been the night before. "Thank you for coming." "Ms. Patterson," Maya managed, "we didn't know you were important." Ms. Patterson smiled. "Most people don't when they first meet me. I find it's better that way. You get to see people's true character." One of the suited executives approached. "Ma'am, should we continue the meeting?" "In a moment," Ms. Patterson said without taking her eyes off Maya. "I want to speak with these two first." She led them a few steps away from the group. "Maya, do you know what Skybridge Airlines is?" Maya nodded slowly. "It's one of the biggest airlines in the world." "The biggest," Ms. Patterson corrected gently. "We operate over 3,000 flights daily, employ nearly 200,000 people worldwide, and last year we carried almost 200 million passengers." Maya's eyes widened, but she wasn't sure why Ms. Patterson was telling her this. "And do you know who I am?" Ms. Patterson continued. Maya shook her head, though a crazy suspicion was starting to form in her mind. "My name is Catherine Patterson. I'm the chief executive officer and majority owner of Skybridge Airlines." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She actually stumbled backward, her hand reaching for her father's arm for support. "You're the CEO of Skybridge Airlines." Maya's voice came out as a squeak. "I am. Which means that last night, you fixed the private jet of one of the most powerful people in the aviation industry. A jet that cost $12 million, using skills you taught yourself by reading books and watching mechanics." Maya felt dizzy. "I had no idea. I thought you were just a rich woman with a broken plane?" Catherine smiled. "That's exactly what I was. But I'm also someone who recognizes extraordinary talent when I see it." Carlos stepped forward, his voice shaky. "Señora Patterson, Catherine, we had no idea who you were. If we had known, you would have what? Been more careful? More respectful?" Catherine shook her head. "Carlos, you and your daughter treated me with kindness and respect when you thought I was just a stranger in trouble. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." She turned back to Maya. "Last night, you didn't just fix my engine. You saved a business deal worth $400 million. You helped me acquire a regional airline that will provide jobs for thousands of people. You made it possible for me to be in Chicago at 7 a.m. to sign contracts that have been 2 years in the making." Maya felt like her legs might give out. I just wanted to help. I know you did. And now I want to help you. Catherine gestured toward the conference room full of executives. I'm here today conducting surprise inspections of our partner airports. It's something I do regularly. I like to see how things really work when people don't know I'm coming. But finding you here, discovering that the young woman who saved my deal works at this very airport, well, let's just say some things are meant to be. Maya looked at her father, then back at Catherine, hardly daring to hope she understood what was happening. Maya Rodriguez, Catherine said formally, we need to talk. Catherine led Maya and Carlos to a smaller, more private office down the hall. As they walked, Maya noticed how everyone they passed seemed to recognize Catherine, nodding respectfully or stepping aside. It was surreal. Just 12 hours ago, Maya had been wiping grease off her hands after fixing this woman's plane, not knowing she was essentially helping one of the most powerful people in aviation. Please, sit down, Catherine said, gesturing to comfortable chairs around a small conference table. She sat across from them, her expression serious but kind. Before I say anything else, I want you both to know that everything I'm about to discuss is completely voluntary. You're under no obligation to accept anything I offer, and your jobs here are completely secure regardless of what you decide. Carlos shifted nervously in his chair. Senora Patterson, we are just simple people. We don't understand business like you do. Call me Catherine, please. And Carlos, what I'm about to propose isn't really about business. It's about recognizing potential and giving people the opportunities they deserve. She turned to Maya, who was sitting on the edge of her chair, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Maya, last night you demonstrated technical knowledge that would impress seasoned aircraft mechanics. You diagnosed a complex problem correctly, and you executed a repair that many certified technicians would struggle with. More importantly, you did it under pressure, with makeshift tools on an aircraft worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. Maya felt her cheeks burning. I was just trying to help, I know. And that's exactly why I want to help you. Catherine pulled out a folder from her briefcase. I've spent the morning making some phone calls and doing some research. Maya, what would you say if I told you that I could arrange for you to attend the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, with a full scholarship covering tuition, room, board, and expenses? Maya's mouth fell open. MIT, but I haven't even applied. My grades are good, but I'm not. Your grades are excellent, Catherine interrupted. I had my assistant pull your high school records this morning. You graduated with a 3.9 GPA while working part-time to help support your family. Your SAT scores are in the top 5% nationally. The only reason you're not already in college is financial. Carlos leaned forward. Forgive me, but how is this possible? Universities don't just accept students because someone asks them to. Catherine smiled. You're right to be skeptical. But Skybridge Airlines donates millions of dollars annually to engineering programs at top universities. We have relationships with admissions offices, and we regularly sponsor exceptional students who show promise in aviation-related fields. Maya would enter as a sponsored student in the aerospace engineering program. Maya felt like she was dreaming. You're saying I could study aerospace engineering at MIT? Not just study it, Catherine said. Excel at it. But that's not all. She opened the folder and pulled out several documents. I'm also offering you guaranteed internships with Skybridge Airlines every summer during your studies. You'd work directly with our engineering teams, getting hands-on experience with real aircraft, real problems, real solutions. Maya's hands were shaking as she looked at the papers Catherine had placed in front of her. They looked official, with Skybridge letterhead and legal language that was mostly over her head. And after graduation? Maya whispered. A position as a junior aerospace engineer with Skybridge Airlines, starting at a salary of $90,000 per year, with full benefits and a clear path for advancement. The room went completely silent. Maya stared at the papers, trying to process what she was hearing. $90,000 was more than her father made in 2 years. Carlos was shaking his head slowly. This is too much. Too generous. What do you want from us in return? Catherine's expression grew more serious. Carlos, I want you to understand something.
Last night, your daughter didn't just fix my plane.
She saved a business deal that will create jobs for thousands of people. The airline we acquired will continue operating instead of going bankrupt. Small towns will keep their air service. Families will keep their livelihoods. What Maya did had consequences far beyond just helping one stranded passenger. She paused, looking directly at Carlos. But even if that weren't the case, I would still be making this offer. Because I believe that talent like Maya's should be nurtured, regardless of economic circumstances. Too many brilliant minds are lost because they can't afford the education they deserve. Maya finally found her voice. What if I fail? What if I'm not smart enough for MIT? You won't fail, Catherine said confidently. Do you know how I know? Because last night, under pressure, with no formal training, you successfully repaired a piece of machinery that costs $12 million. You did it because you cared enough to learn everything you could about something you were passionate about. That's not luck, Maya. That's exceptional ability combined with extraordinary dedication. Carlos looked at his daughter, and Maya could see the pride and fear warring in his expression. Mita, this is a very big decision. Maybe we should take some time to think about it. Of course, Catherine agreed. But I do want you to know that I've also made arrangements regarding your situation, Carlos. Carlos looked surprised. My situation? Your position here at the airport. I've spoken with the facility management, and they've agreed to promote you to head of maintenance operations, with a 40% salary increase and full supervisory responsibilities. You'd be overseeing facility maintenance for the entire airport. Carlos's eyes widened. But I'm just a custodian. I don't have experience managing people. You've been working here for 8 years, and you know these facilities better than anyone. You've raised a daughter who can repair jet engines by reading books in her spare time. Trust me, you have leadership skills. Catherine smiled. Besides, the position comes with management training and full support from the corporate office. Maya looked at her father, seeing tears forming in his eyes. She reached over and grabbed his hand. There's one more thing, Catherine continued. Maya, I know that accepting this offer means leaving your family probably for several years. That's not easy for anyone. So I'm also arranging for your father to have access to the company travel benefits program. He'll be able to visit you in Boston several times a year, all expenses paid. Maya felt overwhelmed. It was too much, too generous, too good to be true. Why are you doing all this, really? Catherine was quiet for a moment, looking out the window at the tarmac where planes were landing and taking off. Because 30 years ago, I was a young woman with big dreams and no money to pursue them. Someone took a chance on me, gave me opportunities I never thought I'd have. Everything I've accomplished since then started with that one person's belief in my potential. She turned back to Maya. I've been looking for the right person to pay that kindness forward to. Last night, watching you work on that engine, seeing your dedication and skill and character, I knew I'd found that person. Maya looked at her father, then at Catherine, then at the papers spread out on the table that represented a completely different future than anything she had ever imagined. I need to ask you something honestly, Maya said. If I take this opportunity, if I go to MIT and work for your company, will I be able to help other people the way you're helping me? Catherine's smile was radiant. Maya, if you take this path, you'll be in a position to change the entire aviation industry. You'll design safer aircraft, more efficient engines, better systems. You'll create innovations that could affect millions of travelers. And someday, when you're successful and established, you'll be able to give other young people the same kind of opportunities I'm giving you. Maya took a deep breath, thinking about all the nights she had spent reading about aircraft, all the dreams she had thought were impossible, all the times she had wondered if her passion for aviation would ever amount to anything more than a hobby. I want to do it, she said quietly. I want to accept your offer. Carlos squeezed her hand. Are you sure, Mika? Maya nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm sure, Papa. This is what I've always wanted. I just never thought it was possible.